Okay, so this is a quick overview of what we'll talk about today. So first, we're going to talk about vetting your guests. So the review process starts right in the beginning when you're first talking to your guests. Then we'll talk about when the guests arrive in your home, keeping them happy while they're in your home, and then a little more detail about how our review process works. So the vetting process. So we recommend that you have a phone call with each guest before you offer them the chance to book your home. You can also have a really good email or text communication with them as well. But the point of this initial communication is to begin to build your relationship with them. And a phone call is a great way to do that. It can be a quick call, just 5 minutes. You can learn a little bit more about who these people are that want to stay in your home. Some questions you can ask them. You can say something like, oh, what brings you to the Cape? Or tell me more about your group. Or how old are the kids? Or are you planning to bring pets? Anything to get the conversation rolling so that you can learn more about them and what they're planning to do and what their needs are and what things are important to them. And in this conversation, this is a great time to be honest about your home's shortcomings as well, to make sure that these people are a good fit for your house. So for my house, I always, let people know that we have air conditioning, but it's not ever going to get super cold. You can't get it down to 64 degrees if that's what you're looking for. And so that's important to some guests. So they really want to know that. And it's a great way to figure out if they're going to have a good time at my house. Maybe they don't need it to be freezing cold. And, that's just one little detail. Um, and so yeah, so this phone call or this email and text thread with the guest is your first step in building a relationship with them. And then if you feel like they're going to be a good fit, then you can extend the offer to send them a lease and they can book. And don't compromise this vetting process if you're in a situation where you need a last minute booking. Make sure you're still doing your due diligence. Don't rush it. Just make sure they're a good fit. I know it can be tempting to just grab at somebody and send them a lease, but make sure you get to know who they are and so that you know who's going to be staying in your house. Okay, so the next step is the guest arrival. So you want to make sure your guests are delighted at check-in. So when they first step into your home, you want them to see a really clean house. So make sure you've got a great relationship with your cleaners. Make sure they know what your expectations are, that you really need this house to be very clean for every guest, and pay your cleaners accordingly. Make sure that they feel like they're doing hard work and they're getting paid for it. You can offer a welcome gift for your guests. So when they walk in, they see maybe a little something on the table, some local snacks, or sometimes I put out some new shovels for the kids, which can get them excited about going to the beach. Handwritten note is always really nice. It's just another little personal touch. And then you can also provide some other fun things at the house, like some cornhole for the parents to play with, or a tub of local ice cream in the freezer, or a nice cold bottle of rosé in the fridge. I like to leave a little s'mores kit if there are kids staying at the house, and then I make sure the fire pit has some fresh wood and some newspaper in there so they can just light it up without much effort. And then on the day of the guest's arrival, you want to make sure you're really communicating with them. So you should be really available on that day. Make sure you've exchanged cell phone numbers and they're able to easily text you if they run into any bumps in the check-in process. And make sure you're not like somewhere with no cell service on the day that they're checking in. You want to be able to answer your phone right away if they call you. And if they don't call you and you don't hear anything, make sure you check in with them and just say, a quick text message after their check-in time saying, I just wanted to get in touch and make sure everything went okay for your check-in. Is there anything that you need? Let me know if you have any questions at all. Something quick like that. And then you start that communication once they're in the home and they know that you're available to help with anything. And if they get back to you right away and they say, well, the house wasn't clean when we arrived, or it seems the AC isn't working, address those issues immediately so that they feel like you're on top of it and really helping them to have a good experience. So along those lines, keeping your guests happy while they're in your home. If any situations like an AC problem or anything come up while they're there, make sure you're trying to diffuse the situation. So make sure they know that you think it's important that they have a good time, that AC, you understand that AC is important to them, but set their expectations. Let them know, I'm going to call right away to my HVAC company. And, I've got a good guy. He usually comes out pretty quickly, and I'll let you know as soon as I have an appointment scheduled. And then as soon as you get the appointment scheduled, let them know what the time is, and if you'll be the one to meet the AC guy, or if they have to meet the AC guy, or if you have a property manager that can help out in this situation. Make sure they know what the timeline is so that they can plan accordingly, because, they don't really want to have to stay at home to wait all day for a service person. And make sure you're staying polite and calm throughout this whole interaction. They may get heated or upset, because it's not fun to have a problem at a house that's not yours. You don't want to have to deal with that while you're on vacation, but you need to be the one to maintain the professionalness and stay polite and calm. And then, you're going to lean on your support team when you have these issues arise. So make sure you've got a good plumber, a good handyman, a good HVAC person. You have a pest control company that you're contracted with. You have someone who does your lawn care or takes care of your irrigation if you have irrigation. And even if you don't have these people out at your house all the time, make sure you're signed up with someone for each of these areas, especially the plumber and the HVAC. If it's middle of July and there's a heat wave and your AC is having a problem and you haven't contracted with an HVAC person, you could call, a bunch of different places, and they're going to ask you, well, are you already a client of ours? And if you're not already a client, they might not be able to help you because they've got a whole list of clients that are calling in during that heat wave. So it's really crucial that you have that support team in place, before the summer season starts. And then the smaller things that go wrong during a stay, like, wine glasses break, or the coffee carafe on your drip coffee maker breaks. And, those type of things you just want to kind of keep in mind. Are you going to take this out of their security deposit or not? And, I'd advise, don't nickel and dime them. Small things, just let them know, oh, no problem, I'll take care of that. Happens all the time. Don't worry. I've got a backup. I'll bring it over, or I've got one on order, whatever. And just know that there are going to be minor repairs and wear and tear on the home because people are staying there, and you can't charge the guests for every little thing that comes up. Yeah. So that's good for that one. Okay. So then, jumping into our policies. So this is about who can leave a review and the types of reviews that can be left. So this is our guest review guidelines and policies. These can be found on our website. And Kelsey, who's running the chat, she might be able to pop the link into these if she's got it handy. So only people who have stayed in your home can leave a review. But any member of the rental party can leave a review. They had to have booked directly through the owner or through the property manager that's listed on our website. So they can't have booked through another property manager and then be leaving a review on our site. Then the reviews have to be constructive and informative. They can't be abusive, discriminatory, obscene, or libelous. They just have to maintain some integrity when they're leaving the review. The reviews can't be used to threaten or coerce the homeowner to meet the vacationer's demands. Like if someone says, well, I'm leaving this negative review unless I get my money back for my security deposit that I feel was wrongfully taken from me. That's not how the reviews work. The reviews are really to just explain how the guest experience was. It's not a tool to use to get their money back. The homeowner cannot review their own property, nor can any of their friends or family. Although it's tempting, you can't have your friends or family members that stay there leave a review because that's just too biased. Reviews can't reveal specific information about pricing, the full name of the homeowner, or the exact street address. So if sometimes vacationers will put that in, and we just take that out so that it's not revealing information. If a review doesn't meet these guidelines and it is declined, the guest may not resubmit another review. That process is done for them. And if requested, they have to verify that they did stay in the home. So they may have to show their lease to prove that they stayed in the home. And then, of course, we reserve the right to withdraw a portion of the review if it's not fit and doesn't meet our guidelines. So then moving on to our process with reviews. So typically with most reviews that are, good positive reviews, they get submitted and they get set to pending and they post on your listing. But if it's a negative review, we'll take that review and we'll put it on hold. And then we do a thorough assessment of both sides of the issue to, kind of check in and see what was going on and what happened. And then if the review does meet the guidelines and we determine that it's going to get posted, then the owner is allowed to write an owner response. So this is a public response that's posted on your listing just below the negative review. And it's a really great opportunity for the homeowner to say what they've done to address the issues that made this vacationer unhappy. So if the AC was broken, you can write into that owner response what you've done to repair it and that now it's functioning just fine. Or if there were ants in the kitchen, that your pest company has come in and there are no more ants. Whatever you've done to fix the situation so future vacationers can see that they won't have this problem at your house. So that wraps up the presentation. And now we're going to go to question and answer. So Kelsey, did any questions come up in the chat while we were going through that? No questions yet?
No.
Okay. And any of the other We Need a Vacation staff, if you notice I missed anything, feel free to chime in with anything else you want to add in.
Carrie, do you want to close the slides?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you want to close the slides?
Oh, close them? Okay, sure.
Um,
I have maybe it's unrelated question to the review process, but I'm curious. A lot of times you get an email and it's within the site, and then you respond to the email within the site, which is good because you got everything tracked on one thing. But then you revert to texting because you might be Venmoing or just for whatever reason.
Mhm.
And so what I end up having to do is go from my email to my text to figure out what I said to them or what's been committed. Is there any way that emails and texts can all be sort of consolidated on a calendar basis or something like that?
Yeah, so we don't have that option yet.
Yeah.
What you can say to them in the text is you could say, oh, that's a great question. I'm just going to reply through the email so that we have a record of this conversation.
So would you do that through the We Need a Vacation email? So it's like coded. Is that you use the reply function there and
Yeah.
tell them that's how you're doing it?
Yeah, if you click
Okay.
that reply function, then it goes to their email, but is also tracked within our system as well. And that's a good point. You want to make sure you're keeping track of all the little details that you're agreeing to
Right.
or coming up with. If you use our booking management system, you can also quickly pop those details into the notes on each booking record. But again, it's just one more step where you have to remember to put it into the notes. So
Yeah.
sometimes I say to people, it's easier if I keep all the communication coming through the same thread so
Right.
that it's all together.
Right. Question on the notes is kind of relates to that. I probably have 10% of the people's actual physical address, and
Mhm,
yet I find it helpful to know where they're coming from.
mhm.
But it's one of those things, if I don't get it on the lease, most of the time I just ignore it, but it would be helpful to have it in the record. So does somebody who's a vacationer signing up for We Need a Vacation have to put their physical address in there? And if so, could that be populated at the same time they make an inquiry? Because then you wouldn't have to put anything in.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, I can look into that.
I'm just trying to do all the things I don't like to do and give you the task of doing it.
Yeah.
If
I mean, it's a good point because some of them do have that, at least the town, they have the town and state
Yeah.
they're from. So that might
Yeah,
be able to be
that would be good.
plopped into their booking record.
Bill, I used to rent my home. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
Okay.
This the founder, Joan? Are you the
Yeah.
founder?
Yeah, I guess you could call me that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just singing your praises. I love the site. Okay.
Oh, thank you. I was until 2 years ago, Jeff and I rented out our home for 26 seasons, and I did it the old-fashioned way. I would mail them a lease, and I, of course, got their address, their home
Right.
address. I put on the lease.
Yep.
So, I mean, even if you're, emailing it to them, however you're doing it, I think it's a good idea to have their address on the lease, regardless of how
I
you're
agree.
getting it.
No, I
So-
agree. It's just that everyone I've got, with rare exceptions, most of them don't fill it out, and I forget to go, hey, give me your address. And it's just one of those details. It's totally worthwhile to have it. I was just trying to say it there, and you could, once you put it into booking management, it would go in there like a lot of the other information would be kind of helpful. But I'll seek it out regardless of whether that happens or not.
So I use DocuSign to collect my leases, and you can do
Oh.
a little field that automatically prompts them. They have to put their signature, their cell phone,
Oh, that's
their home
great.
address, and then I have a couple rules at the bottom of the lease, and they have to initial those. So you can kind of tweak the DocuSign process to
Do you,
get those things.
this is my last question for the minute, but do you then, when you use DocuSign, do you send them a Google Doc and then sort of incorporate DocuSign into that process?
So the way I do it is I create a Google Doc with their lease, then download it as a PDF and load that into DocuSign. And then
Okay.
DocuSign sends them an email that says, here's the PDF with your lease, put your signature here, put your initials here, put your home address here, and then
Oh,
plops it
that's
into
awesome.
PDF and sends it back to me.
But does DocuSign cost money?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It's
Sure.
not much. I forget how much, but it's
No, it's worth it. That's great.
so
Okay.
easy. And it's so easy for them too, to like,
Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
yeah.
Carrie, the homeowners might be interested in knowing, they probably already do, especially if they've received guest reviews before, but there is a separate field when a vacationer is submitting a review for the homeowner's eyes only. So if, for instance, they had a wonderful time, but they had a suggestion for an improvement, and they don't want that in a review for everyone to see it forever, especially if it's going to be corrected or added by the homeowner, they can do that, and they often do. So it's just a good feature so that, they don't have to contact the homeowner directly in addition to the guest review, or
Right.
included in the guest review.
Yeah.
The other thing I might mention is people often ask, what do people complain about? What are the negative reviews about? There are probably 4 main themes in reviews. The first is, as you mentioned, Carrie, lack of cleanliness, and that underscores the vital importance of having a spring cleaning. We do get reviews from people at the beginning of the season who say this house wasn't ready for prime time. It wasn't opened up, it wasn't aired out, and it just wasn't clean. And you can't expect if you don't have a thorough spring cleaning, your cleaning staff, turnover cleaning staff, is not going to do that for you. They are too busy, to do a thorough cleaning, under every piece of furniture and all the woodwork and all of that. So that's really important. Another one is dampness and mold and mildew. They often complain of mold when it's really just mildew, but that's a common complaint, that especially if the house doesn't have adequate air conditioning or any air conditioning, As we all know, it can just get very wet and humid, and that, that's when people start to complain. Or inadequate air conditioning in the bedrooms is another one. And dampness if you have a basement or a lower level area, especially if there's a bedroom down there. It's really important to have a dehumidifier. Another real theme in the negative reviews is bugs and pests. And again, that's a good reason to have a pest control company that you've signed up with, because if somebody complains about an infestation of bugs, you can say, I'll contact my pest control company and, they will come and spray. But if you don't have that, you're up a creek if somebody calls and complains about that. And
Sorry to interrupt. They do preventative measures too, right? So they'll spray around the foundation in the spring to prevent things from happening, or they'll, they can put mouse traps in the basement if you've had problems in the past, and hopefully that'll prevent more problems in the future, things like that.
Yeah, good point. And the last is lack of attention when something does go wrong. If the owner is very cavalier about, well, the dishwasher broke and I'm sorry, we can't get someone there until Thursday and it's only Monday. I'm sorry about that, but it's out of our control. That is out of your control in a way, but you can do something to make it up to them. And along with a sincere apology, but a restaurant certificate for dinner out, or something to make sure that they feel compensated for, they feel, I've been inconvenienced, but the homeowner went out of their way to try to fix it for me. And if they couldn't, at least, I got something for the inconvenience.
Well, and Joan, that brings up a good point. Someone's dryer broke and we were getting a complaint about it. And we suggested to the homeowner, like, bring over a bunch of fresh towels, bring over a drying rack, maybe even quarters for the laundromat, like anything you can do to try to help the situation so that the vacationer feels like you're paying attention to them and you understand that it's challenging that they don't have a dryer.
Right.
Looks like Jay has a question. Jay, you can unmute yourself. Yeah.
I do have a question. I've been on We Need a Vacation for probably 10 years or something like that. And very happy with it. Haven't had a negative review yet, thank God. But I get a lot of repeats. Probably, I'm going to say about 75 to 80% of my guests are repeats from year to year. And what I do is when I return the security deposit, I'm enclosing a letter and with a link asking them to review the property and repeats review. I use your in the homeowners book and management system requesting reviews for this year. Unfortunately, I haven't even gotten a single review, and I'm doing all of that. And I know that, you guys send a reminder, I believe, out about 5 days after the first initial request. How can I generate more reviews from repeat guests and everything else who really driving my guest list?
Jay, do you text with your guests while they're in the home?
I try not to text with them unless they text with me the first day or first night they're there, or the next day they get a phone call from me and we have a conversation. How was your drive? You need any recommendations? Did you find everything in the house fine? And I haven't had any issues with that. So, I do communicate, and I communicate before. And then, right afterwards, I also let them know that just let me know if you want me to pencil you in for your week, your week for next year. And I'll send
So,
out pieces in October.
well, you might try sending them a text message with the link to the review. Because sometimes that's just another way that if if they're driving home, one of them's in the passenger seat, they get this text message, thanks so much for staying again, so happy to have you again. Hopefully you want to book next year. If you wouldn't mind leaving a review, here's the link, and then they can just click right into it from their text message. That might be just one other avenue that makes it easy for them to leave the review. And I just did that with a repeat renter. And I said, if someone else in the family wants to leave a review, so it's a different person, that would be great. And so the husband left a review from the man's point of view. So that was pretty funny to hear, like all the things he loved about the house. So you could try that.
Okay. Yeah, that might be because, once people left a review, they know, oh, I've done it. I'm going to continue, oh, love the house, but what more am I going to say?
Right, right. Even if they just say something simple like, this is our 7th year staying, that's huge. That is great for other people to see that as a review.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody
Anybody
else?
else?
Questions? Yeah.
I I have another question. It's not related to review, so I don't know. Can I ask it or? Um, I had brought this up a while back. When you download the Excel, this is kind of a nerd comment, but honestly, is there any way to reorder the download so that you can certainly get the Excel and then reorder the columns so that it's more user friendly?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of information that is information that's worthy, but it's kind of like if that could be like on the outer edges of the download so that you just get the name, the weeks they're there, the deposit information, and also the deposits, because the deposits is not downloadable. It's just a total. So you really, I don't, as I recall, you can't really just tell who owes me what at what point in time. You could
Mm-hmm.
suppose you can do it with QuickBooks, but I'm just saying it would, that thing could be just a couple of tweaks to the Excel download would
Mm-hmm.
make it very user friendly immediately.
Yeah, we do have a new reports function that's going to be coming out soon where
Okay.
you can select different fields. I don't know if you can rearrange the order of them.
Well, if you
Uh,
can select different fields, that would probably do it. I mean,
yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for that. It'll be right over in that same right-hand side on the booking records page of booking management. So
Okay.
if people use booking management, they can download all the information from their guests to help with,
Okay.
like tax purposes and yeah.
Okay. What's the time frame on that? Did you say? Sorry.
I don't know the exact time frame. It's all set to go. I think there was just one little tweak we had to make. So it should be soon, hopefully.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you. You'd mentioned something else that I thought was helpful is when you're sending out the request for the guest review, you sort of casually mention, I'm getting your deposit ready once I talk to the cleaning people. It sort of gives them an incentive to both give you the review and also make sure it's positive, I guess. I thought that
Yeah,
was good.
yeah, there's sort of like a little wiggle room in that time when they've left the house. You said, thanks so much for leaving everything so clean. Really appreciate it. I'm sending your deposit back. How do you want me to send it or whatever, if they say Venmo or Zelle or however. And then you can say, in the meantime, would you mind writing a review? So they're still in a transaction with you because they're still waiting for their deposit to come back. And so they're actively paying attention. Whereas if you ask for the review 2 weeks after they've already gotten their deposit back or
Yeah.
2 months after, they're already done with their vacation. It's in the past and it might not
Yeah.
be top of mind to leave
Right.
a review.
Okay, cool.
I think that's a important part to touch on too, Carrie. I mean, you touched on it briefly, we do get a lot of negative reviews that are coming in as a result of a dispute over a deposit return, right? And so Carrie was touching on, all of a sudden they're irritated that they broke a cup or a wine glass, I think was an example that Carrie's used. And all of a sudden they have $20 that have come out of their security deposit. Well, we're getting the phone calls that come in now that otherwise would have been a fine review or no review, if you will. But all of a sudden there's a laundry list of what was actually wrong with the home because they feel nickeled and dimed on the deposit. So I think it's also important to note that what Carrie had touched on briefly in the presentation is that normal wear and tear, little thing, what is it worth to you? Is it worth saving that negative review to cover that wine glass, if you will? We do get a lot of feedback with regards to deposits. Along those same lines too, one of our policy guidelines is we actually don't get in the middle of financial disputes at all. So when we're handling a complaint or a negative review, if you will, we'll facilitate the conversation. We'll investigate. We don't like to necessarily say the word investigate because that makes us look like we're, showing up at the house with goggles and all that. It's none of that. It's more finding out, making sure that nobody's been threatened with a negative review and that type of thing. So to your point too, with regards to documenting all your conversations, very, very important. We are very big advocates of that. You're going to have a lot of phone calls, which we're big proponents of. We also advise that you follow up those phone calls with emails or text messages so you have something in writing. And then clearly, if the communication devolves, we'll try to assist in facilitating that. And we also like to get copies of what your conversations were with going back and forth. And sometimes we can save it. Sometimes we can, on the rare occasion, we can get somebody to withdraw a negative review. It just becomes a complaint that sort of goes into the file. There was an issue with cleanliness type of thing, but that's not public facing. So sometimes that's helpful as well. Any other? Yeah, go ahead, Joan.
I might add that if a damage deposit, security damage deposit is meant to be used for damage. And for instance, if you have a no pet policy and you find out that they did bring a pet, you really should have in your lease the proper wording about no pets allowed. Any infringement of this policy will result in the forfeiture of your security deposit, because they will have signed that and they are aware. Same thing with excess number of people. If your home sleeps 8 and suddenly you have 14 people sleeping at your home, again, you should have in your lease, maximum number of 8. Any violation of this will result in the forfeiture of your security deposit. So you're just covering yourself that way. Sam, do you have anything else along those lines to add?
As far as,
well, just what you should have in your lease so that you are within your rights. Because someone could, if you don't have that in your lease, for instance, if they bring a pet and if you don't have that wording in the lease, someone could say, well, I brought my cute little poodle and he did no damage whatsoever, so you can't keep my security deposit. I think
Is that in the draft form of lease that you guys provide? I don't think it is, but I think it's a good idea.
It is, I believe.
It is in there. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's hard. I'm not an attorney. I'll just preface it by saying that Joan's asking me because I've been a licensed broker for a couple of decades and am used to working with contracts. But I will say that you certainly want to have, when it comes to your contracts and refunds, cancellation clauses and all of that stuff, I always advise at least a one-time pass by a real estate attorney. On your lease agreements, we provide a sample agreement that provides some language, but we are not attorneys either. And sometimes attorneys can provide some additional language with some added protection that is specific to you and your property. So certainly good to, even if you've been doing this for a very long time, it's not a bad idea to grab somebody and have them review it quickly with you.
Also, if you have a Ring or something similar, a security camera, let them know prior to their committing to a contract with you.
Oh yeah, we're gonna go, yeah, there's all kinds of, yeah, legal road stuff we could go down.
Yeah.
Any other questions from anybody? Guest reviews while you got Carrie? All right, anything else you wanted to add, Carrie, before we close this out then?
No, I think that's all. Just that, you know, guest reviews are really important, so make sure you're asking for them. You know, and make sure you have guest reviews that are up to date and new. Every year you should be adding a few more. But for the most part, everybody's doing a great job, so keep it up.
Yeah, we've had they've been great coming in this year so far. Yeah. So, well, if you do think of anything after digesting all of this, certainly you can email us at support@weneedavacation. I'm here for any questions, Samantha at We Need a Vacation. Typically, it's everybody's first name at We Need a Vacation. If you want to reach out to Carrie, you can reach out to her directly as well. So thank you all for coming.